And yes, that is the sound. We are live. Today is not Wednesday. I'm unavailable to join and to host a beer examination topic Wednesday tomorrow, but you can all at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Louisiana time down south, and go and watch Jay Terrio, the Louisiana Beer Reviews channel of YouTube, and go check out his Wednesday, his Wildcard Wednesday in my absence. I thank you for that, Mr. Terrio, or Terrio. Today is a Tuesday tasting room, same format. We're going to drink whatever beer because I'm here, and we got John in LA joining, and we got the great state of Georgia. We got Michael Komaroff joining.
Always fun to be here, Eric.
Hopefully, we have Jean H. Pierre joining. He said he was going to. And again, this is just basically a wild card on a Tuesday. So let's see what the panel has brought this evening. Let's start with John and Nelly.
All right, I've got one that I've never had before. This is from Sierra Nevada. It's their Tropical Torpedo. It is 6.7% alcohol and 55 IBUs. It is a tropical take on their standard Torpedo IPA.
Interesting. What are you bringing, Michael Komaroff?
I have something from the Brooklyn Brewery called Bel Air Sour.
Ooh.
5.8 alcohol. They don't list their IBUs, but it's a tart sour beer.
Excellent. Trying to find some information on the beer that I have. My beer, they don't say a whole bunch about it. My beer is from the Spring, I guess it's called, Springdale by Jack's Abbey Brewing. So Jack's Abbey Brewing is the lager craft beer company from Framingham, Massachusetts. They go out the building, go down a sidewalk to the next door and go all the way up, and they're doing all kinds of different. Springdale is owned by Jack's Abbey. They're doing all different kinds of ales and sours and barrel-aged things that aren't just using lager yeast. So this Springdale by Jack's Abbey Brewing, I'm going to try to pronounce it. I think it's called Brigadero Breakfast Stout at 7.5% alcohol by volume. This was canned on the 29th of October, and it says, enjoy this creamy coffee and chocolate-infused oatmeal stout while plotting to win your day, because it is a breakfast-style stout, and they say it's got beware for a dairy allergy if you have those things. Brazilian coffee, cacao, oats, and milk sugar, all parts of this complete breakfast stout. Roasty, rich, and smooth. There's a little bit on that beer, but do you have any experience with the beer you're about to drink from Sierra Nevada there, John and Millie?
No, this is my first time having it. I've had the standard Torpedo, and I thought it was pretty good, although more piney than I would like. So I'm thinking that I'll probably like this one a little bit better because I like the tropical fruit notes that you get from the hazy some of the other IPAs. So I think this will be more along the lines of an IPA that I like to drink. And I guess I'll go ahead and give you a quick breakdown here. The aroma, it's very nice, very fruity. The hops that they're using are definitely on the tropical side here. I'm getting some mango. Definitely a big pineapple note right up front. It smells really good. It says on the back of the label, lush aromas of mango, papaya, and passion fruit. Okay. Well, I'm getting mango and pineapple is what I'm getting. It smells really good. So I guess I'll go ahead and give it a sip. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Very enjoyable. The mango and the pineapple notes follow through on the palate. There is a little bit of like a resinous dank thing going on with this one. but it's really not piney and it's not unpleasantly bitter. It's very fruity. It's got a nice like white bread crust type thing in the middle of the sip to let you know that you're drinking a beer. The finish is crisp, clean, refreshing, relatively dry. The alcohol, 6.7%, is masked very well. 55 IBUs is right in my comfort zone with these types of things, so it's really not too bitter for me. Although it's definitely more bitter than your standard beer, obviously, and it does have a bittering finish, but not an unpleasant finish. So first thoughts are that it's very good, and I think I prefer this to the standard Torpedo because of the nice tropical fruit notes that I'm getting.
Excellent. Does sound like a nice change of pace for an IPA this day and age. So that is a cool thing to hear from Sierra Nevada. Once again, we'll get back to John Anelli for some final thoughts and his final rating and grade on the Sierra Nevada beer. But for now, we shall go right to Michael Komaroff and his delicious sounding beer.
This is what it looks like in the glass. Kind of a golden color, clear golden with a nice bubble stream going up. And the head is a white, half a finger maybe. I don't know. Not bad. Let me give it a nose. Getting a lot of tropical fruit on the nose, and you're really not getting tartness in the nose, but more like a tropical fruit. Let me give you a little history on this beer. I said that it was 5.8. It uses two-row and pale wheat malt. It uses their house yeast and Simcoe and Amarillo hops. Let me give it a taste. Okay, you do get some tartness in the taste. So in my initial sip that I had, there is some tartness. You're still getting the tropical feel as well. The tart taste does kind of dull out a little bit. It's in other sour beers I've had, you get this kind of like pucker up kind of thing, and it lingers. This one, you get the tartness, and then it kind of like fades out. You get more of the tropical hops, I think, coming on stronger than the tart. So I would call this a mildly tart ale.
Okay.
Let's see, took another sip, and the same kind of taste is continuing. So you can come back to me, Eric, and I'll give you some final thoughts.
Excellent. That does sound like a nice, easygoing, refreshing beer. So that is good to see. Not gonna cut your head off. But again, I have that Springdale by Jack's Abbey Brigadero breakfast stout. I bet you Craft Beer Pours watching. Hello, what's going on? And Kent Beer Reviews. Hello, what's going on? But I bet you, and Kyle Jackson and Gabriel Salai at one point. Hello, everybody. But I bet you Craft Beer Pours, being from Massachusetts, must know some of this Jack's Abbey. So you can see where the lacing sort of started and where the nice creamy beige looking head was, and where it still basically is, in a Jack's Abbey Teku from Julio's Liquors, West Carroll, Mass. But yeah, Jack's Abbey. Didn't realize that till I drank it. So good. There is definitely there's a little bit of ruby red tinges in the beer, but to be completely honest, this is a very, very dark black, non-opaque looking beer. Yeah, very, very big, sweet, bready, brown bready sort of notes, yeah. And then there is they say like a Brazilian kind of coffee. But yeah, there's definitely a big medium to full roasted coffee malty nose in there for sure. Lots of like semi-sweet baker's type chocolate. So on the darker side of the chocolate notes. I guess there is a little bit of like a lactic souring note, but that's really small. There is a milkiness to it. What else am I getting? Maybe even a little bit of like a molasses type sweetness. So, I mean, if you're big into your coffee forward notes and some chocolatey notes, This one smells like it's going to be for you. And at 7.5% alcohol by volume, it does smell like a little bit of a bigger beer, but you're not getting a whole bunch of a boozy presence. So just coffee in a glass. Let's try it. Cheers. Brigadero Breakfast Stout. That's smooth as hell. All right. Damn. Okay. So it sort of finishes a little bit on the thin, watery side. But for me, that's kind of good because it's keeping it really refreshing and actually highly quaffable. It starts out with this straight up medium body to it. It's not too heavy or too thick at all. It does have a little bit of stickiness around the glass and in the palate. It's a tiny itty bitty bit chewy. Right away, initially, I'm getting a milky and a dark chocolatey kind of a component to it. Almost fudgy, but not quite. And then I'm getting the rush of those medium to full roasted coffee malts or whatever they're using in the beer to give it that coffee flavor. Not a huge finish. It is a little tiny bitty bit. I don't want to say smoky, but maybe that's the roastiness of the coffee. I'm lacing. It looks really good. It's got a nice effervescence to it. It's very easy drinking. I would, again, it's a straight up medium mouthfeel. It is crisp. And is it refreshing? I kind of would say this is kind of a dangerously refreshing beer. So Michael Komarov had mentioned this is a good beer so far. I'm going to give this one high marks, I think. We can all come back to me on that note and for a final thought and rating. But I remember Michael Komarov talking about he was involved in a stout tournament. And did you say that the Brigadero Breakfast Stout did pretty good? Is that right?
No, that was one of the ones that I took home. I haven't had mine yet. I have one in the refrigerator right now. That was my third pick after the my first pick was the CBS and then one from Grimm, and then that was my third pick. I got two others, one from
so nobody did that at the Stout Fest.
No, I'm sure it's really good. So I mean, I'm still gonna have it. John, maybe I'll do one of those on our Sunday stout.
Tasting it and drinking it. Okay, interesting. But it certainly does have a really nice pillowy, nice head to it. So yeah, this is a dangerously good beer. So yeah, let's go right back to Michael Komarov. Remind us all the beer you're drinking and what's going on with it now.
Okay, again, I'll show it to anybody who's come on since. It's called Brooklyn Bel Air South. It's a tart sour beer. And as I continue to sip on it, which I will be doing, the beer is pretty much as I first said. It's a nice tart ale. It's not, a rock'em sock'em sour that's going to get you puckering up. So it's more of a tart sour. But the consistent taste in it is really nice. And it's very refreshing. And, it's a good beer. I really like it.
What would you maybe give that for a score?
I'm going to give it an 89, which I guess in my rating is a high B+.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree with that. 89 is a high B+. Yeah. Is there anything about the beer that could be changed that would maybe give it a higher score for you?
Well, I like more of those pucker sours better than the tart sour. So if you put them against each other, I want to actually feel my lips get the taste going. That's me, but I know John's that way too. But a tart sour to me is different enough from other type beers that it's still interesting to me. But I would like it to be a full sour. But again, they're not going for that. They're going for a tart sour. So
Brooklyn, it seems like Brooklyn Brewery, Michael, all the beers that I've had from them, even the pumpkin beer that I had from them, they're more hoppy than your standard beers. So maybe the hops that they use kind of take away from the sour component because of the hop bite on there.
That's certainly possible. Like I said, it has Simcoe and it has Amarillo, and maybe those hops are taking away a little bit of the sourness from it. But there is something that's creating the tartness. So I do find the tartness to be a positive taste profile. I didn't mention before, it's crisp in the finish also.
Okay. Have you had that beer before, John? What are your thoughts on sour beers in general?
No, I haven't had the Brooklyn Bel Air Sour. I've only seen a few Brooklyn beers here in my area. I've had the Post Road Pumpkin. I've had the standard Brooklyn Lager. And then there was, God, I can't even remember. There's one other one that I've tried as well.
How about
And
the
they were all pretty good, but
Defender IPA? Have you had that? That's their other
no, I
IPA.
haven't had that one. I think I had one of their darker beers, that maybe like a brown ale or something that they make. But anyway, I've liked them all, but I've noticed that they're all noticeably more hoppy than other beers within the category.
Hmm.
Eric, can you get Brooklyn beers in Massachusetts?
Totally can do that. Yep, I've had a number of their beers. I believe I do get the Bel Air Sour. I can probably see that. I think I know what store to buy that at. Yeah. So it's very easy to get. Brooklyn Lager is if I'm at a big enough beer bar, they will usually have a Brooklyn Lager somewhere. And one of my favorite, going there Saturday, one of my favorite local venue, music halls to go and see a concert in Providence, Rhode Island, usually has Brooklyn Lager on tap. And that usually is, even for non-craft beer fans, I noticed that people tend to like the Brooklyn Lager. I mean, yeah, lager, you would think that maybe that's a good gateway beer into craft beer, but I really think that it is. I think that is a perfect beer if you haven't really tried full flavored, full bodied, craftier beers. Now, say what you want about Brooklyn Brewery, but they're really a craft beer anymore, just like Sam Adams. But I think they do a good job for people that want to get into craft beer. So, yeah. So, right back at you, John in LA. Oh, with his, what is it, Tropico from Sierra Nevada?
Tropical Torpedo.
Tropical Torpedo. How's that
So,
going? Tasting, rating, anything?
yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's going down nice and smooth. 6.7% is pretty much non-existent. You could drink quite a few of these, I think. The sessionability is high for the alcohol. I mean, I like the tropical fruit notes, the breadiness. It's relatively light and sessionable. It's not super complex or anything like that, but it does have the nice fruit notes. It's got a little bit of that resinous thing going on as well. Carbonation is relatively high as well. It's nice and prickly, which I think adds to the refreshing qualities of the beer. It's in the, it's in the A range for me. I think it's probably a 94 out of 100 for this style. I mean,
Wow.
it's not,
Okay,
not the most complex, thought-provoking beer out there, but it's not really trying to be that. And for what it is, it's an A. So 94 out of 100 for me.
Excellent. Good stuff there, John Nilly. I'm trying to think if I want to give this a 94 as well. I'm kind of, yeah, write it down, Michael. 94 out of 100. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, if I take a bigger sip of this beer, Springdale by Jack Abbey, Brigadero Coffee Stout. If I take a bigger, fuller sip out of the beer, is when I really notice the fact that this thing, they say it's also a creamy coffee and chocolate infused oatmeal stout. So that kind of makes sense. I am getting an oaty, what am I saying? Grainy complexion to it, but that's in a positive way since oatmeal stout. But again, what I was saying there was when I take a bigger sip of the beer, I do notice more of the coffee influence and much more of that sort of slightly souring coffee note you can get when you just drink coffee, black coffee without any sugar or cream in it, which is really nice with that chocolate. The chocolate's not overpowering. Nothing about the beer. It is sweet beer. It's more of a, again, breakfast desserty kind of a beer, but it's not really that sweet. I would just say it's moderately sweet for what it is. I think everything blends really well together. The coffee sort of does, lead the show and does walk out there and give you the first impression on stage, if you will. But it's an extremely well-rounded beer. It's got a little bit of char. It's got a little bit of toastiness to it. If you like oatmeal stouts, if you like things like a Guinness Foreign Extra Stout with a little bit more body and robust flavor to it. If you do like your coffee stouts, and to be completely honest, even if you like imperial stouts, but you're just, and you can get this beer and you do not want to drink an imperial ABV for the evening, yeah, this is a good one to go towards. I think even more malt complexions and a little bit more going on than just the straight coffee, for me, could possibly give it a higher rating. But I mean, 94. This is you're gonna like this beer when you crack that son of a bitch open, Michael Komarov. This is damn delicious. So yeah, I'm liking that. So again, tomorrow is the Ronald Theriot, Ronald Theriot. He is hosting the Wild Card Wednesday. So get on his channel, 6:30 Louisiana time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time frame of Michael Komarov, John and Nelly, and I. So yeah, there's that news. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to talk about in the beer world. Seems like Michael's always doing something else in craft beer. What's going on in beer lately? And Michael,
Six Point has another release on Saturday, which John knows about. I did send the email to some people. I'm not sure if I sent it to you or not. I might have sent Eric as well. It's two IPAs, one that's kind of a sour IPA, which I'm not getting. Party Hat, which they released before, they're releasing again, and a higher alcohol one that's 8.5% called Party Favors, and I'm getting more of that. I'm going to get I split a 6-pack with somebody. I'm getting my own 6-pack, so I'll have 9 cans of that, and I'll have three of the Party Hat. It's funny, on some of these other blogs that I'm on, I get response from people like, why can't we get this beer, these limited releases? Again, you have to live in the New York area. You have to be willing to come and pick it up. So it's not, they're not trying to close you out. It's just a local brewery thing trying to, I don't know, they're trying to increase the interest in themselves as a brewery. But I think in the process, they're also trying to release different types of beer. And I wouldn't be shocked if some of these beers do become, brewery releases at some point, where they'll be available at least in all the places where, 6 Point distributes their beer. Unfortunately, not Georgia, but where they do distribute their beer. Eric, you can get at least the resin and the Bengali, and the crisp, and some of their other ones, which they do distribute to some states.
Definitely. So I can't actually get onto this portion of the website here on 6point.com to actually get the information on these beers. But yeah, this says Party Favors, which is a New England style double IPA. Then you got Party Pinata, which is something I can't, that's the sour India Pale Ale with pineapple puree and toasted coconut. And then there's Party Hat, which is which is more of, I guess, a standardized, if you will, version of the New England style IPA. So if anybody's in the area of the brewery at 11 a.m. or anytime around that, and on Saturday in Brooklyn, New York, go and stop by there. So you have to go on. So is that what you did? You went on the website
on Monday afternoon at 12 noon. You have to go onto their app and you order it. You have to give $1 deposit for each 6-pack you buy, which you get back when you pay for it.
That's not
and
bad.
one of the reasons there's a deposit, when you do buy it, when they hold the releases at the brewery, you pay for it in advance. But here they're doing it at a bar, Union Pool in Williamsburg. So it's illegal for them to collect the money in advance, because you're going to pay for it at the bar. So all they can collect is $1 per 6-pack to hold it, and then you can pay the rest at the bar. This is something with New York state law, that you can't pay for something in advance if you're getting it at a bar. If you're getting it from a brewery, you can, because they're selling it. Here, the bar is their representative, so you can only put a deposit on it. And this just started last month to use the bar, because the weather gets so cold, you can't have out. You're in Massachusetts, you can understand. If you hit a day where it's 12 degrees, they have these big heaters, but when you're outside, that doesn't keep a lot of people warm. So here you're physically inside a bar. They have a food truck in there if you want food. There's a regular bar. They feature some of the 6 Point beers, but you can also have other things too, which is kind of cool. And the thing, I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not, Audrey comes with me, my wife, and they like her a lot. So she seems to even they come over and they hug her, and she seems to be able to get free beers from them where they don't give me anything. I get to taste her beer, but I mean, it's like, it's like, you know, I'm almost, and I'm a bigger, you know, I've known them longer and stuff, but you know, I guess she, you know, she makes a fuss and they like that. And she's been following 6 Point for a long time too. We've been supporting we know the owner and we know some of the other people. So it's been a really good thing. And they're a good company. John, at some point they will end up in Georgia, but I don't know when. I mean, you know, they want to make sure they can get distribution to all their states first before they expand. But they, you know, they're in Memphis is where all the cans that they ship nationally go from. So you're in the area where they could get the beer to Georgia fairly fast once you would become a state.
Well, I'm going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee in February for a week. So I'm going to see if I can find some while I'm up there.
Maybe there's some 6 Point in Tennessee. I don't know if that's on their state list or not. They're in South Florida, which is interesting. Where my mother is, you can get 6 Point.
I thought you said they shipped out of Memphis. So wouldn't that mean they would just have the beer out there maybe?
I don't know. I guess you'll find out when you'll find out when you go. The local areas around here where they started seem to have the best distribution, which I guess makes sense. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, but they sell in Chicago. I know that's one of their markets. So I mean, it's not like they're trying to keep it limited to a few states. It's just that they probably do not have the capacity in Memphis, which also does other, you know, contract brewing, to do an unlimited amount, and that probably limits where they can ship it. But Atlanta is a great market. I would think it would be a market in the future that they could distribute to.
I hope so.
I would think. Interesting. Gabriel Celaya wanted to chime in, Michael, and say that he is able to get the Brooklyn's Bel Air Sour at his local Total Wine, and it's a 6-pack for $8.99. Do you think
that's a really good price?
Yeah. So if you want to try a sour beer, Gabriel Celaya, I think Michael Komarov would recommend that one.
It's a good one. Now, it's not something that I would seek out because I'd rather have an A+ sour or an A sour than this, but it's still not it's a very good beer. There's nothing wrong with it.
And it's more, is it more on like the fruity side than it is on like more of that tart vinegary side?
Yeah, it's more on the fruity tropical side than it is on the tart vinegar side, which I think in this case is probably okay. There are some people who don't like pucker sours because they find them too much the other way. I know John does like them like I do, but there are people who don't like that. So I mean, maybe this is a good middle ground beer if you like tartness but don't like sour.
I went to the Proclamation Ale Company this weekend with my buddy Kyle. I think you all met him at least once, from Rhode Island. And that is in Warwick, Rhode Island. They're one of these bigger known Rhode Island and New England, that New England IPA sort of game. They do it really well. But they did have a sour beer, and I believe the sour, I forget what it was named, the sour beer and the ABVs, I think it was around 8%. It was a cask conditioned sour ale. And that's basically what that was, is it pretty much tasted it pretty much had a really giant lemony, puckering, that vinegary tartness to it. And he's a fan of another brewery called the Smug Brewery here in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, that does more of a blackberry sour where it's more fruit forward, lower ABV, around 4.3 or 5%, but more on the fruit noted side with just a little smidgen, if you will, of the souring note. So really traditional big sour beers that tickle a lot of people's fancy out there in the craft beer world. Some people are just really not a huge fan of that, but they are a fan of the more subtle flavors when it comes to sour. So sours are just like IPAs, and sours are just like barley wines and Belgian beers and stuff like that, where there's just such a large variety to everything. You can go as light as you want. You can go as absolutely crazy as you want. And there are a lot of people out there that like their extreme beer drinking experience. They'll drink this breakfast stout and they'll go, okay, but I want more. I want more of everything. I want it to be bigger and bolder and greater. And sometimes I think that's not so great, to always be drinking a beer and going, you can do better, you can do more. Why can't we just like give this a 94 out of 100 and really just appreciate it for what it is, right?
Also, as far as this Bel Air Sour, it came as one beer of 4 in their box set number 4, and I got it at Target and earlier today. And John, like, you get a deal at Kroger. I have a Target card, so I save 5%, which is, I'd save some of the tax. The tax in New York City is 8.85, so getting 5% off saves on the tax.
Yeah.
So it comes out to be $1.35 for each of these bottles. And there are 3 of the Bel Air Sours, 3 of the lagers, 3 of the Defender IPA, and 3 of something I've never seen. They have a session IPA called Stonewall Inn. And of course, the Stonewall was a Greenwich Village riot by gay people when the police came in and harassed them, and it got brutal. And this was like in the 60s, I think. Not sure, but I mean, it was. I was alive, but it was, you know, recent history yet, quite a while ago. And in this riot, the gay people who were there did worse than the cops. There were quite a few fatalities, and you know, it was kind of messy. But you know, I guess gay rights, like it's like anything else. You got to start out somewhere, and New York always had a large gay community, so it's named after the Stonewall riot because there was a Stonewall Inn there in Greenwich Village. So I've never tried that. I'll try to let everybody know when I do how it is.
Excellent.
I don't think I've ever had a session beer from Brooklyn. It's always been a straight IPA. I've never seen a session beer, but they may have one.
You got to start small to make a revolution, I suppose. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we got John Anelli still joining us here on the chat. Anything going on in craft beer in the world of John Anelli? Oh,
look who's here! He has come.
Whoa! But we will get to John Anelli here briefly. But is there anything going on in the world of craft beer, in the world of John Anelli and his beer channel, John Anelli?
Nothing too crazy. Just you know, a lot of new craft breweries opening up all the time here in Georgia. I don't know if I told you guys this, but there are 42 craft breweries in Atlanta alone.
Damn.
And then there are well over 100 in the state of Georgia. And there's new breweries opening up all the time. There's one right down the street here in Coweta County, and then there's one in Peachtree City where I work. So craft beer is everywhere here, and I'm loving it. Even though the state law kind of prohibits us from getting some of the good stuff from other parts of the country, we do pretty well with craft beer here in Georgia. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Everybody. John,
hey guys. Good evening. Sorry for the delay.
No worries.
Yeah. Long story, but anyway, getting back on what John was saying, we're getting that same sort of view here in the city of Mobile. We have 3 breweries here. Well, actually 2 breweries. We have Serta, and we have, of course, Haint Blue. And then, of course, John has tried several beers from Fairhope Brewery. So that's 3. And then we have another brewery about to be opened up here in Mobile as well. So with the 3 here in Mobile and 1 out in Fairhope, Alabama, across the bay, and then the entire state, I think we have like maybe 40 breweries, I think, here, from Good People to Avondale to Back 40 to Yellowhammer to Straight to Ale Brewing Company, Singing River. I mean, it's craft beer is, as just to harp on what John's saying, is here to stay. And, you know, those of us transplanters who live from, you know, who came from the Northeast or out West, who moved, you know, Midwest, moved down here to, you know, the Southeast. And even those who are here, who are born here in this state and the surrounding areas, I mean, they're loving it. You know, the fact that there's different styles that they're trying and experimenting, you know, is, you you know, they're getting away. And look, we know that the regular beers are going to be around forever, but they're trying other things. Say, hey man, this is actually better. Maybe I should get away from Natural Light and drink more of this. You know.
Shots fired. Boom, 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 boom. What are you going to present to you? You may have a really interesting beer to present to us. We'd love
Yes,
to.
I have a great beer. It's a classic. It's a craft beer. I'm sure some of you have ever. I'm sorry.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. Anyway, this is what I'm
Budweiser. Oh.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. But
Boom. Classic. Is
Real
that the
crafty.
beers there? Yeah.
yes, this is the original craft beer, right?
Shots fired. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. But
All right.
yeah, it was 2 for 4. Actually,
Right?
2 for no. Take that back. 2 for $2 for
That's a
two 25
really
ounce cans of Budweiser, and I could not pass that beer up, so I
wouldn't
went ahead and
pass
grabbed
that. Oh.
2 25-ounce cans for $2. I grabbed it and went
Yeah,
out the door.
it's a good price.
John,
But
just to
also-
make it official, what's the ABV of Budweiser? Since I don't know.
5%. Then again, some people think Budweiser's a little bit is weak at 5%, but I don't know.
Budweiser, the king of piss, some would say.
Exactly. I just remember Ed McMahon and Lou Rawls and, you know, those commercials. When you say Budweiser, you said it all. Yeah. So, but I did try the Bavarian Lager by Sam Adams. I got that and I reviewed it, and I will upload it either tonight or sometime early tomorrow morning.
Okay.
For all to watch, and I'm sure y'all saw the 420 Strand by Sweetwater that I reviewed, and
Yes, sir.
and that was interesting for an IPA. You know,
I watched that review earlier, John, and you're kind of on the same page with me. We both like it. Jay gave that one a
a
D.
D score. Yeah.
Wow.
And I told him,
good.
yeah, and I told Jay, I said, hey, you know, not everybody's gonna, embrace, different styles of beer, and Jay did embrace that style of beer. I said, okay, all good.
I'll tell you what got him with that beer. He said it had a weird aroma and taste. Well, it's because it smells and it had like a little taste of marijuana because it's made with him. So
Right.
that
Oh.
flavor that he was describing that's what that was the hemp. He doesn't,
Step then. Uh-huh.
he
Remember
doesn't like the hemp.
Remember the New Belgium Hempinator? I reviewed that one. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I gave one to one of my colleagues at work. He said, "Man, don't ever give me something like this again." I said, "Come on, man, try something different. Try something different once in a while than drinking. Because he likes what's that beer he likes? He likes Corona. All the Mexican beers, Corona. Modelo and whatnot." I said, "Here, try this. Hey, don't ever give me that again." I said,
My
"Okay."
God.
Yeah.
But I bet you the panel is dying to hear your thoughts today on Budweiser.
There's nothing really to be thought. No thoughts on Budweiser. It's refreshing. It's enjoyable. Again, seeing my dad and my mom drink this during the summer. Spring outside, they would be in the yard just doing some work and just cleaning up, doing chores, whatever, and pop open a Budweiser and just sit out in the backyard and just listen to calypso music or something, whatever my parents were listening to back
John,
then.
you want to give us a rating of Budweiser? How would you rate it on the 1 to 100 scale?
Come on.
I'll probably get banned by saying it's again, that's the way with the beers and the history of this beer, and you can't be negative, but then again you can't be positive about it. So I would go say 77 for the beer.
Oh.
So that's like a C plus, I guess, going to a B. I don't know. So
Now, John, in the past, you've given that, John Anilli has given that a higher rating, but John is rating his as its style. In other words, as a lager, as a macro lager.
Well, yeah, I think for an American adjunct lager, it's obviously one of the best. It's not my personal favorite. I'd rather have Old Milwaukee, Hams, PBR, because I think they have a little bit more of a hop bite, and I don't know, something about the rice adjunct that Budweiser uses just gives it a slightly different flavor. It's very, you could definitely tell it apart from other macro lagers, but I still think it's an A within that category.
And I think I mentioned to you that I've been on a couple of Budweiser brewery tours where I'm willing to admit that they've been able to keep it consistently the same, which I can't say about every other beer I've ever had.
Yeah.
And even though I've said this to John, I know I got a little testy with the guy who was running the tour because I told him he could stick his Beechwood chips, and he got really excited. Got really mad. And I said, that's basically for advertising. I'm not claiming, and I didn't claim they didn't use it. But if you look at the commercials, they make it seem like if they didn't have that Beechwood chip in there, it would make a huge difference in the beer, which is a bunch of hooey.
Right.
Whatever. And I told him, and I know it's his job. He had to refute it. He couldn't just let me get away with it, which was okay. I took it.
The Beechwood chips it's a neutral wood that adds no flavor, according to the company. It only produces the carbonation.
Okay, he was making it seem it affected the taste. And I told him
it should.
I told him it did not. He didn't want to listen to me.
Yeah. Well, one thing you have to say about Anheuser-Busch, with all their beers, particularly with Budweiser, they're not playing around. Quality stands out, and they've been following that recipe from day one. And that you have to give credit for them about that.
Right. Even if you don't agree that they're quality products, we can all agree that they're consistently made. They're all consistent. If you say they're not quality, they're crap, well, at least they're consistently crappy across the world, because you go anywhere and try their beer and it's going to taste exactly the same.
Yeah. Not to go.
But craft beer, craft breweries are getting to the point where they're pretty much on that same level for the most part. You're not going to find an off, like if you buy a craft beer in one state, go to another state, you're pretty much going to get the same thing now. Whereas maybe 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. But now with the modern brewing techniques and all the equipment and technology that these brewers are using, it's very rare that you're going to find a spoiled beer or a bad batch or something like that.
Right. And even if you are the king of beer, strictly by the volume that you sell, and they do sell a huge volume between Bud and Bud Light. I mean, it's astounding how much beer they sell, but they're selling less and less of it in the United States now than they ever have.
Overseas right now.
It's more international sales. You still have some people who's still into Budweiser here. It's not like it's nobody. But I think the fact that their parent company, InBev, is picking up all these craft beer companies, they're telling you where beer is at in the future. They're going to continue to brew macros, but the craft beer thing has taken over. And John and I were discussing, we think they might be around 15% of the total market in craft beer, and it's going to continue to grow.
And as you can see, why Anheuser-Busch InBev went ahead and made that deal with SAB Miller, mostly because it was all about the international market, Africa, Australia, those places,
Asia,
South Africa,
the whole Asian market is huge.
Just was looking at, and I was looking at it, and I was saying, wow, and then also to top that off, their sales is not as high as it was here in the States, but also you look at the sales for Constellation brand beers, the Coronas, the Modelos, and whatnot, they're doing very well here in the States. So it's kind of, I guess, maybe like a reverse, I don't know, that Budweiser that you thought would be great here now seems to be popular overseas.
Yeah.
And the Corona now seem like to be the Coronas and the Modelos and whatnot are more better here, does well here than they do in, other places. So.
There's always been a problem with a lot of people that are more of a craft beer drinker, when it comes to companies like InBev, Anheuser-Busch, buying out craft beer brands, because either people feel like they're going to change all the recipes. The beers are not going to be any different. I don't want to say any names and deface people here, but Tom the Beer Whisperer, holy shit. There is a difference from when they bought out when they were bought out by the Anheuser-Busch, and then when they were bought out by the Anheuser-Busch. I'm like, what the hell, NASCAR? But what, like what? I love NASCAR, by the way. But what the hell? I mean, Lagunitas, I think is what he was talking about. Like, I guess he does some working at a brewery. I'm sure he's going to comment on this one. But like really, usually these companies are pretty much left alone in their brewing of beer. So who the f cares? And number two, the other thing is that I mean, that's the number one thing that they complain about. They're just going to be bought out a bit by a big conglomerate, and now they're not going to become craft beer anymore because they're just going to start pumping out beers like there's no tomorrow. However, I think it's crazy if you're a craft brewer and you think that an Anheuser-Busch partnership or a big beer partnership of any kind isn't going to be good for you because number one, you're going to be making that money that you want to make. Number two, your beer is going to be able to be bought in so many more markets because the distribution is being controlled by a ginormous corporation.
Right.
Now, a lot of people got off the wrong way when Heineken International had 50% ownership of Lagunitas, and now they have a whole 100% ownership of Lagunitas, and they're starting to put Lagunitas breweries and start to build breweries on the European continent. So I think that's a really great thing that they're going to be able to get their beers all around the world and they're going to be brewed all around the world. I can't see that as a bad thing.
And that was the point also with Blue Point Brewery, with them, when they were bought by Anheuser-Busch InBev, I'm sure they wanted to stay, that little brewery in Long Island, they just didn't want to. But they felt that, hey, I really would love to really expand myself. So they made the deal for 24 mil and they got involved with Anheuser-Busch InBev. And now people like myself who live here in Alabama or John in Georgia, whomever, get to taste Blue Point. Now, it's not just a Northeast thing. People can taste it, buy it down here in the Southeast. And that was their main goal. I'd like to, expand my reach. And that's pretty much what happened. But, but they lease, and one of the good thing about those things is it happened that they allow the brewers, those who were there from the beginning, let them keep making the beer, do what you're having to do. We're not going to make any changes. We're not going to do any of this. What's going on in the production of the beer, fine. Yeah. But we, want to, if we're dealing with distribution, we want to be in charge of that. So.
But you know what that tells everybody. You know that says, and I'm wondering what Michael Komarov's thought on this is. What that says is that I don't want to say that they're scared or they're afraid of what it's doing to their particular industry and where they are in the marketplace. These bigger macros producing beer companies, but they're obviously understanding that craft beers got such a place within beer in general that they have either not going to get run out of town. However, they have to get involved in it because if they don't, they're going to lose a market share of people that would never buy their products to begin with in the first place. Is that right, Michael Komarov?
I agree with that. And it's even though the macro production in all those companies, in Budweiser and Miller Coors, is flat, it's not like they're still not sending a ginormous amount of beer in the United States, because your average drinkers who have always had that beer are going to keep drinking it. They're not trying craft beer. The older people, now maybe their children are trying craft beer, and their nephews and their nieces are trying it. But if you're that 55-year-old person, 60-year-old person who's always had that macro, you might try something else, but it would probably be something similar to the macro you're trying. You're not going to be trying IPAs. You're not going to be trying stouts. Maybe you'd have had Guinness, which is more of a worldwide kind of thing, which you might have heard of. But I was going to mention, since John wasn't here at the beginning, I had Brooklyn Bel Air Sour, which is a tart flavored 5.8% product, which I didn't find to be sour enough, but gave it a B+, 89.
Okay.
So you're not going to get an average macro drinker to try a sour. It's not going to be in his wheelhouse, but you might get an IPA drinker to try a sour or a tart beer. So, I mean, it just gives you more of a chance to try different styles.
We have in the chat Gabriel Salaya talking about he had a 25-ounce can of Budweiser on Sunday night. He's looking, even before that, he was searching his Total Wine to find some sour beers. He would like to see a ice craft lager be made.
Good luck.
There are ice box that are 11+% ABV, and he says Sam Adams should make it. Sam,
Tell Gabriel not to. Tell him not going to make it this
craft
week.
lager taste.
Tell him they're not making it this week. Maybe in
Well-
2025 or something.
Sam Ice Lager for ice craft lager taste is what he says. It would be.
Hey, didn't Dogfish Head, Sam Calagione, Dogfish Head, didn't they try to put out a beer that's sort of like a sort of a reminiscent of the folks who drink the beer in the brown bag, the
They
malt
did
liquor
put out a
type
malt
of
liquor
beer.
once. They did.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It had a. I think it did come in a paper bag. The marketing of this beer.
Right.
I never found it in the store when I started drinking beer.
Wasn't it Sierra Nevada made a? Well, no, Sierra Nevada had the BFD, the beer for drinking, but I'm thinking of Founders made a malt liquor beer, the DKML, yeah.
But that was like not
Yeah,
even
I
anywhere
was trying
near
to get
like
that. I couldn't find that anywhere.
like that.
We can't get it, John, because it's 14.1%.
Yeah.
Did you?
I heard Florida had it. I heard it was in Florida, so I was considering making them drop to Pensacola, which is like an hour away from where I am here in Mobile. But
What did you?
Unfortunately, it's that 0.1% over what we can get here in Alabama and Georgia.
Did you try that Michael Kormaroff? Did you ever try the DKML?
Yes, and I actually liked it, but it was either you liked it or you didn't like it. There was no middle ground on it. I did like it. I'm cellaring one. I have one. I bought a couple, and I'm cellaring one.
Would you say it was more reminiscent of a barley wine than you would say it was more reminiscent?
Yeah,
of
yes, but it was actually it was a well balanced barley wine. I like the way Founders put the flavors together in it. I liked it.
I think it was like 14. I think it was around 14%. If I'm not
I think it was like 14.3.
So if you're drinking a lot of different beers and trying different things, unless you have 3-4+ people with you, even for that 12-ounce bottle, if you're like I said, if you're trying different things throughout the night, do not end with that, folks. You'll regret that. I might have regretted that one time over the summer. Holy crap! Don't do that. But unless anybody else has any other comments, so we do have one from Gabriel Salai that says, I can go from Coors Light to Guinness Stout. And that is good. Keep going in different beer directions and keep tasting all those great beers. So unless anybody has any other final thoughts for the evening, Jean H. Pierre, thank you for stopping by. And John Anilli from Georgia. And Michael Komarov from the great state of New York by way of Brooklyn. I am Thomas Meadow 75 from Masters of Beer Reviews. Don't forget to stop by at 6:30 Louisiana time in the evening and 7:30 Eastern Standard Time to Ronald Theriot, Louisiana Beer Reviews channel for his hosting of the Wild Card Wednesday. Again, that's tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. That is on the 16th of January 2019. Again, go stop by his channel. And until then, I'm going to raise a glass and say, here we go.
I still have a little.
Great beers.
I still have a sip.
yes.
And
Enjoy, everybody.
we'll see
Good
you
night
soon.
and wonderful time.